French-Azerbaijani relations are at their lowest ebb ever.
Very disturbing, and I understand that.
With one notable exception of your good self.
As a spy or foreign agent for a foreign country, working for Azerbaijan.
No, you don't eat caviar, by the way.
No, I don't eat caviar because I eat kasher. My deep conviction is that Azerbaijan is right.
All of this statements coming from the first person of France, what should happen to its relations to improve?
Eat baklava, drink tea. It's done now. Karabakh is back.
But the French attitude has not changed.
Well, you cannot be more royalist than the king itself.
Would a post-Macron France be different?
I think that the safest place for the Jews right now is Baku. It's not Paris, not Los Angeles, not New York. I myself, I didn't know that it was a statute in Evian. Thank you for asking me that. Rape is not resistance.
Hello everybody. The French-Azerbaijani relations are at their lowest ebb ever. The year of 2020, which saw Azerbaijan recover its territorial integrity, was the point after which its relations began to visibly deteriorate. And today I will discuss some of the key underpinnings of French foreign policy regarding the South Caucasus, regarding the Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process, with my guest, Nathalie Goulet, member of the French Senate, and most notably, the only member who voted against those resolutions adopted by the Senate since November 2020. Madame Goulet, it's a great delight to welcome you here in Baku.
Thank you for having me today.
Since we are conducting this interview on the sidelines of the 11th Baku Global Forum, allow me to put to you this question. I know that you attended the previous editions of this forum. How was this year different?
Well, it's a very appropriate place to meet a lot of people, especially in Baku. So we have two sides. First, what happened during the forum and what happened in the lobby and then outside. So everything is very interesting, the session, and I have to underline the work of Orkhan Amashov and his team, because it's a very heavy work, and it was very successful. And so the session were really interesting, of course. But then what happened after the fact that we are able to meet a lot of people that even in your dream you may not be able, like Yunus, Nobel Prize, like Tzipi Livni, like a lot of other foreign minister or former minister and still minister, and somehow you can find some old friends, like the former ambassador from Bahrain in Paris. Sheikh Yahya Al-Khalifa was here, and I haven't seen him for 20 years, and etc. So I mean, it's a very good place. And then it's also important to map Baku as a place where the people can talk each other.
And I think yesterday you delivered a speech on the panel entitled "On War and Peace: Return of Realpolitik."
Yeah.
Are we currently observing the return of Realpolitik into the realm of war and peace?
Well, first of all, I was the last to speak, so a lot of things has been said, and then I didn't have such a lot of time, so I tried to just give some hint. Of course, I think that the state are exactly a human being, and you know that in a time of crisis, we are more and more selfish. So as a matter of fact, the state also are selfish, and realpolitik is just to act for the present, for the current day, for the current trouble, and not to think with the global value to tomorrow or the day after. So I think that it's not the return of realpolitik, it's a day-to-day gestion, which is very different. And then you also have a lot of new challenges, like terrorism, cyber criminality, lack of leadership, you know, all those kind of things which create a lot of trouble and commotion for the leader or so-called leader to deal with a long-term process. So if you don't deal with a long-term process, you are subject to realpolitik and day-to-day politics.
On the point of realpolitik, Many Western leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron, are saying that they will support Ukraine for as long as it takes. What does "for as long as it takes" actually mean in real terms?
I think you have to ask him, not me. I have no idea, but there is something for sure that we have to support Ukraine against the Russian aggression. So when you say as long as it needs, it means that we will not give up by supporting Ukraine, which is a message.
And nothing beyond that.
Yeah. No, well, it costs. It costs in terms of economy, cost in terms of agriculture, cost in terms of energy supply. I mean, cost, of course. And then cost in disturbing situation all over, because, of course, the situation between Ukraine and Russia creates a lot of waves and consequences everywhere.
Since November 2020, the French Senate has adopted numerous resolutions against Azerbaijan. Those resolutions, for very understandable reasons, are perceived in Baku as being blatantly anti-Azerbaijani and pro-Armenian. I don't want to go into the specifics of those documents. Audience is well aware of their content. Could you explain to us why those resolutions have been adopted unanimously? As you know, they've garnered the support from across the Senate, with one notable exception of your good self. Could you explain to us how those decisions are being made, and what does underpin unanimity of those resolutions?
Very disturbing, and I understand that people from Azerbaijan are disappointed. And probably, first of all, you have to understand that the position of the parliament, whatever it is, Assemblée Nationale or Senate, didn't reflect completely the governmental position. There is a clear separation between the parliament and the government and the President of the Republic. So I understand clearly how disappointing it is regarding the very important investments, cultural, economic, emotional also, because France is a country which used to be loved by Azerbaijan. The first vice president was during a long term president of the friendship group in the Majlis, Mini Majlis, between France and Azerbaijan. So to show you the importance of the relationship at that time. So I understand the full disappointment of the situation. My opinion on the subject is that, first of all, most part of the senators have no single idea, not a clue about the first Nagorno-Karabakh war. As a matter of fact, they choose, or they just ignore, that Armenia was occupied, the 7th province of Azerbaijan, that Azerbaijan has to deal with 800, close to 1 million IDP and refugees, that United Nations settled 2 resolutions against Armenia on this issue. All that is totally erased. And at the same time, they totally ignore 30 years of failure of the Minsk group. The Minsk group was created to solve this occupation, this Armenian occupation, okay? And nobody talk about it. So that is already 2 failures in the demonstration. And the third one is the lyric, is the storytelling of Armenian diaspora, included the lady which is the Armenian ambassador in Paris, who has a free table in the Senate. She's in the Senate all the time. And the storytelling is as following. We are going to reproduce Armenian genocide 1915, and it's not a territorial issue, it's a religious issue, between the good Christian and the bad Turkish. As simple as that. And since 9/11, protection of the Christian in Middle East is a real issue. So the people, they match, they merge, they whatever, they make this storytelling theirs. And the fourth point of the demonstration is that we have a very strong Armenian community voting in most part of the constituency. And so the MP has to refer to their electors, real politic. All that together creates this situation.
How do you feel in the French Senate by virtue of how you voted in relation to those resolutions? Do you feel isolated? Have you felt any backlash from the Armenian diaspora or people who support Armenian cause in France?
Well, backlash, they are used to me. So it's not a surprise for them. They even almost not comment it anymore. Okay, but still, I think that somehow I may have a self-censorship, not to be seen as a spy or foreign agent for a foreign country, working for Azerbaijan, whatever it is, submit to caviar diplomacy.
No, you don't eat caviar, by the way.
No, I don't eat caviar because I eat kasher. And esturgeon is forbidden.
Sure.
So it's very clear. Everybody knows it. And ask my rabbi if you want more details. So it's very difficult. And the problem with that, to tell you frankly, is that my deep conviction is that Azerbaijan is right. I do it because I strongly believe in it. And so it's even more difficult because, I mean, if you have a mandate or something, or if it's your business to plead for like a lawyer, you know, for a case, okay, you receive your money and your fees and everything, and so you plead, and when the case is over, you go back home and that's it. Which is not my case. First of all, I am not paid, and then I strongly believe in this story. So I'm as disappointed as the Albanian people can be in this case. I don't say that Azerbaijan is doing everything fine and that it's the best country in the world and so. But according to my experience after 30 years, I see the progress. And for example, I find it totally unbalanced, the situation of PACE, Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. I remember that the same PACE didn't do anything close to what happened this time, not to ratify the delegation during the war in Chechnya against Russia. I mean, it's really, let me a little bit, it's not understandable for me at this level.
Sure. Of course, we understand that resolutions adopted by French Senate, they do not represent the official position of Paris. But still, people who are in Azerbaijan, when they observe what's happening in France, they also take into account that French Senate is part of the political system in general.
It is.
Therefore, those resolutions, they're not legally binding, but they still matter a great deal. But let's talk about President Macron's statements. For example, he once said that Azerbaijan has a problem with international law. After the Second Karabakh War in 2020, he said that Azerbaijan, together with Turkey, launched an aggression against that separatist entity. And he said that we will not allow Azerbaijan to conquer the Upper Karabakh. All of these statements coming from the first person of France.
But you saw the result. World.
As I said earlier, the French-Azerbaijani relations are at their lowest ebb. What should happen for these relations to improve? Do you think that a peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia will be a good enough development for France to change its attitude towards Baku?
You know, I think that something has to happen right now. It will be Nowruz soon. It's a time to a new spring and a revival and change and come back for better and, you know, Nowruz. Mubarak. So let's hope that this no-rose will pave the way to rebuild relationship. We cannot stay like that because Azerbaijan is our ally in the South Caucasus. Okay, and we strongly need a strong South Caucasus, especially against Iran, against Russia. The situation is very difficult, and we need our ally back. So I think that everybody has to calm, like Sabzeh for no-rose. So eat baklava, drink tea, calm, and be back to the table and speak with French people.
Do you think those things will be sufficiently good enough to resume good relations with France?
No, I think we have to pave the way to sit around the table.
Because our relations, French-Azerbaijani relations, started to visibly deteriorate after 2020. It's all about what happened in Karabakh. I think it is acknowledged.
But it's done now.
Karabakh
Karabakh is back. I mean, it's our...
Yeah, by September 2023, Azerbaijan fully restored its territorial integrity, fully restored its sovereignty over Karabakh. But the French attitude has not changed. We know that. What should happen in real terms for French attitude to change? Do you think peace still will be good enough for France to reconsider its current position?
Well, you cannot be more royalist than the king itself. So if Armenians are making peace, maybe against their own diaspora, but you know, they are the people involved in the war. So it's just my opinion. It doesn't reflect not the position of the Senate, which of course is totally
your individual opinion.
It's my position. My position is that we have to bring the reality of the situation back. Means that remind the failure of the Minsk group, remind Armenian occupation, remind Khojaly, not with cartoon on the Twitter, but the reality, like the photograph Reza was on the stage and make a lot of pictures during the Khojaly massacre. And you know, to explain that it's not black and white. The situation today is that it's totally black and white. But a war is never black and white. So I think that somebody has to restore the dialogue with the French civil society, MP. We have a parliamentary diplomacy. It's specially done for these cases of a crisis.
Do you think it's about the person of the French president, or would a post-Macron France be different?
I don't think any change with the president will change anything. The only thing is that we observed degradation. For example, President Hollande slept in Baku as he slept in Yerevan. And one of a sudden, President Sarkozy just landed 3 hours here as he slept in Yerevan. In the past, the president paid attention to have a balanced situation. And then we saw year after year something, degradation in this. You know, it's nothing. But for the people who observe the situation, it's very different to land and have meeting at the airport for 3 hours and to sleep over in a country. There is nothing to. I mean, it's important as a vision. And then we saw that. And then Sarkozy, Hollande went twice in Armenia, and one for Francophonia things organization, which was in Yerevan, and didn't want to come to Baku at the same time, which was the first time that it was so disbalanced. So I don't think that it will change with another president. I think that it's, according to my point of view, it's linked with a strong Armenian diaspora and their storytelling, as I told you previously. So we have to bring back the reality. The reality is that it was a territorial war.
Not a religious one. Not
a religious one, for sure. Well, it's not. And the people, when you say there is a multiculturalism in Azerbaijan, they say, no, it's not true. Okay, but we see that every day, and the people who know the country know it by heart. And I think that the safest place for the Jews right now is Baku. It's not Paris, not Los Angeles, not New York, not nowhere.
One more question, since you mentioned about Armenian diaspora. It seems to me sometimes in Azerbaijan we tend to exaggerate the clout of Armenian diaspora when it comes to influencing the French foreign policy. How consequential is Armenian diaspora when it comes to shaping French foreign policy regarding the South Caucasus?
Oh, it's very strong.
It's very strong.
Oh, it's very strong.
Is it too strong to be the primary factor? Or is it just one of the factors which are being utilized by French foreign policy?
No, I think that the diaspora is very strong. It's very strong because it's also spread all over the country. Around Paris, Marseille, Lyon. You have also a lot of Armenian in the media. You have some expert in foreign affairs, Armenian origin. And how would you expect them to be balanced in a conflict where their almost motherland is involved? And then somehow I'm fairly sure that in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, included our ambassador in Baku, they know the reality of the subject, except that probably the real politic and the prejudgment about Azerbaijan make the people lazy. I mean, it's easier to think that it's a religious war and to support the poor Christian against the bad Turkish. And the storytelling of Armenia is really, really strong, really strong.
And effective.
Yes, yes, effective. And I think that instead of having excessive argument against France, somehow not very efficient, we have to restore the real storytelling of this territorial aggression from Armenia to Azerbaijan, the failure of the Minsk group, and then how Azerbaijan restore its sovereignty. And that is the reality.
Azerbaijan fully restored its sovereignty.
Yep.
And it did it by means of the legitimate application of force, because OSCE Minsk group was a complete failure, and you confirmed that. So it is a case of a country suffering from the occupation for decades and eventually sorting out this problem by means of legitimate force in line with international law. Given that there are many other countries within the post-Soviet realm who also have the same problem, do you think this example could be used by them as well in terms of sorting out their territorial integrity issues? I mean, Georgia, for example, Ukraine, Moldova, they also suffer from...
Transnistria, no.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Do you think has Azerbaijan shown the way for those nations as well, in a way?
I don't know. What I'm sure is that when the international law has no effect, because for Karabakh and occupation, we had 2 resolutions from United Nations.
It's 4, actually.
4, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. Such a long time I've repeated the same thing. Maybe I'm mistaken. But even with 2 is enough to respect them. And then we have this Minsk group, and then we had a lot of incidents along the border, and then the regional situation with Ukraine opened a window that Russia was busy somewhere else, and maybe it was time to take this opportunity to restore the sovereignty. I don't know, it's my opinion on the subject. So international law was unable to restore sovereignty of Azerbaijan previously, so they used force. So maybe it was some bad action, maybe we had some misconduct about that and that, but then we have court for that. And the situation today is that Azerbaijan restores full sovereignty on its territories, period.
How pervasive is Islamophobia in France, and what are its implications for French-Azerbaijani relations? I know that regarding the recent incident involving Nathalie monument, you believe that it was an isolated case perpetrated by some unhinged individuals?
Of course, nobody can support it. So, just on this subject, to be absolutely clear, you have to know that the mayor of Evian wrote an apology letter to Laila Abdullayeva, Azerbaijani ambassador in Paris, said that they will restore this status and that they open a case in the court to find the people responsible of that. So let's turn the page and go to something else more important. I mean, I understand the symbol, I understand everything, but don't make a big story out of something which is already solved, because the mayor himself apologized and wrote a letter and everything. The reality is that the status will be restored. The mayor apologized, and we are looking with the police and the court system and everything to find the people responsible of that. So let's go to another subject and turn the page of this miserable incident.
Well, hopefully there were so many positive developments.
I myself, I didn't know that it was a statute in Evian.
Yeah, but hopefully there will be so many positive developments that will be focusing on them. But that event and its implications have been very strongly felt in this country. So that's the reason why I asked about that particular incident. President Aliyev, in his opening remarks, said that we are very close to a peace deal with Armenia. We've never been so close to that ultimate eventuality. How hopeful are you that in the year of COP29, in 2024, Azerbaijan and Armenia will be able to sign this long-awaited peace deal? I
hope so, really. I trust the President Aliyev. He always delivers, hopefully. Of course, I'm strongly in favor of peace, and I hope that diaspora sometimes are very toxic. Whatever other diaspora, they can be very toxic. I'm playing a positive role in this peace process.
Currently, the Azerbaijani-Armenian peace process is bilateral. There are direct talks. There was a meeting in Germany, but Germany is providing venue. They're not interfering with the negotiation. Do you think at this stage, when we have already this bilateral format, that some of the statements coming from France should also be in the direction of contributing to this bilateral process as well?
Well, we had a discussion 10 years ago when we already had some problem with the French position regarding the occupation, that France should leave the co-chair of the Minsk group. We already had this discussion. My position, which is only mine position, is that we have to let the people, Azerbaijani and Armenian people, solve their problem by themselves. I don't think that they need anybody right now. And then the global situation is Azerbaijani are unable, and we understand that, to trust French. Russians are very busy somewhere else. American people are under election. And those three countries were all co-chair of Minsk group without doing anything, haven't done anything for the last 30 years. I don't think they are the person appropriate to be now in the middle of this peace process. So I have no other solution. European Union is hopeless. I really have no position. I think that the bilateral situation is for right now the best, unless Armenia and Azerbaijan find themselves a third party to be their umbrella and protect them and their peace process discussion.
By the way, I've noticed that brooch that you're wearing. What does it signify?
Oh, thank you for asking me that, because it's to bring Israeli hostage back home. Of course, ceasefire, but it's very important to bring them back. Rape is not resistance, and taking hostage is not the way to do the war. And we hope that the hostages are soon be back home, and we are, some of us, carrying the same necklace. Thank you for asking.
Well, since we discussed this issue related to Gaza, how have you found the reaction of Azerbaijan to the conflict in Gaza? Because Azerbaijan is very friendly with Israel, and there's a thriving Jewish community in Azerbaijan, but at the same time, Azerbaijan is a Muslim majority country, and there's a certain degree of sympathy for the Palestinian plight as well. Do you think that Azerbaijani reaction was quite balanced?
Oh, balanced as usual. I mean, it's not a surprise. What is surprising the people who don't know the country, I remember that it was the first country having an Israeli embassy for members of Islamic Conference organization, having such a good relationship with Israel, having a Jewish community without any anti-Semitism. We were talking about Islamophobia, but you have to know that in France, anti-Semitic act raised 300% this year. We don't have that in Azerbaijan. We have to know that. People have to know that. So, situation is balanced, and I think that President Aliyev received yesterday the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tipi Livni. So probably she knows much better than I do. But I think that the situation of Azerbaijan, regional situation, teach definitively their leader to be balanced, because when you have Russia and Iran as neighbor, it's not Luxembourg and Switzerland. I mean, you have to think deeply.
It's not ideal neighborhood.
No, it's a little bit crazy, but at the same time, the country is doing so well with this neighborhood, which is very, very difficult. And I remember the President Aliyev, when he was received by the President Larcher in the Senate some years ago, he explained clearly his vision and clearly the fact that it's not a country like anything else, and especially not like France, having Switzerland and Spain and Luxembourg as neighbor. It's something else to have Russia and Iran. So I think that it's a lesson for everybody to be more balanced in the situation, especially because the leadership prevent the real politic and maybe have a vision, a long-term vision about what he wants to do for this country in this kind of neighborhood.
Nathalie Goulet, I'm most grateful to you. Thank you very much indeed for this lovely conversation. I wish you all the best, and hopefully at some point we will meet again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.